So hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and I'm just here at the Dhahatuna Kuti and thought to record a short Owada for the internet. So I thought that could start with a little meditation, so I can lean forward a bit and arch the spine, and look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, wishing may all beings to my right be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. In every dimension, may all beings to my right be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side and our left hand side. May all beings to my right and my left be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, and in front. May all beings to my right, my left, and in front be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, in all 4 directions. May all beings in all 4 directions be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, and above. May all beings in all 4 directions and above be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, above, below, all around in every direction, everywhere. May all beings all around in every direction, everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And before we finish meditating, can take a few moments to contemplate impermanence, how all phenomena that are subject to arising are subject to ceasing. If one grasps onto things that are unstable and impermanent, it causes one to suffer. They're not me, they're not mine, they're not myself. And can open our eyes and do a short reflection for the internet. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. So hope that everybody's having a great day wherever it might be. And things are coming along here in Sri Lanka. The rainy season has started, but we still have some quite nice days. So today is a day with lots of sunshine. And one of the things about the weather is that there's only so much planning one can do for the weather. So the other day I was walking around and had this kind of phrase, this English phrase coming into my head, kind of rain on your parade. So, parades have, people walking in a file, and I don't know if they're so popular these days, but when I was young they were still quite popular. You'd have like a Santa Claus parade or something, and everybody would walk wearing costumes for Christmas, and they'd walk down all these streets, and people would come and line the streets and watch them. You have parades for various things. And so these parades, of course, depended on good weather, because if it rained, then the parade might have to be canceled, or if there was a thunderstorm, then people wouldn't want to come out and watch the parade. And so this parade requires a certain amount of planning. You have to let everybody know that the parade's going to happen. You have to prepare the costumes or whatever it might be, and one has to kind of build anticipation for people. And the thing about this parade is that if the weather's bad, then all that planning goes to nothing. But still one has to plan with a certain amount of flexibility. And there's certain things one can do maybe to prepare for good weather, or bad weather rather, but there's only so much one can do. And so because of this, there's only so much use that it is to worry about the weather. Only so much usefulness that it can be to worry about what one's going to do in the parade regarding the weather, whether the weather's going to be good or whether the weather's going to be bad. There's a certain amount of preparation that one can do, and then one just has to leave it to chance. And so there's a certain amount of this in the conditions for one's practice as well. When one sets out to follow the Buddhist path, a lot of things are supporting conditions for that. It's a supportive condition to live in a stable country, a country with a government that doesn't always tend to topple and require a lot of fighting. It's a condition to be in good health. It's a condition to be young. It's a condition to have good friends, have Sangha members around who can help one. It's also a condition that the Sangha is in harmony. But all of these things are things that are uncertain. They're things that are not stable. They're things that one can't necessarily control. And so they can be a bit like the weather. One's practice, one plans. One has to set up these kind of plans. Okay, well, I have, if one is working or something like this, I have this amount of years left until I retire, and I can devote more time to practice. Or if one is a monk, then one has these different phases in one's monastic life, and you just can't really just necessarily skip a phase in that training. So if one wants to go live in solitude first, one has to spend a certain amount of time training, and there's vagaries and uncertainties to that. So I remember when I was a young monk, I heard about Sri Lanka and heard that there was a lot of forest here, and thought one day I'd like to come to Sri Lanka and try to practice in the forest there. There was a Sri Lankan monk who said, "Oh yeah, there's lots of forest. There's elephants in there. There's all these different animals, and Sri Lanka's done a good job preparing their forest, or preserving their forest." So it made me want to go. And as my 5th Vasa approached, I really wanted to come to Sri Lanka, but came down with this kind of unexpected stomach problem. And actually there was maybe 4 or 5, anyways, there was different instances, more than one, where I was hoping to come, or something, was planning to come or wanting to come, and it didn't work out. Things seemed to keep kind of coming in the way, or I felt like it wasn't the right time, and these various things. So it didn't seem to work out, although it was still part of the plan. And actually, even when in coming here, in submitting my application, the application didn't work out. It didn't go through. I filled out the form incorrectly. And so that didn't work out. Actually, this was a few years ago. And so thankfully I actually made it here through some kind help of several people. And after that, coronavirus hit. So all these various things are a bit like the weather. It's kind of one can have this plan in one's mind that one wants to do, a plan for one's practice, a plan for one's life, but these various external agencies can control the supportive conditions. They can change the supporting conditions such that it may or may not work out. And because of the uncertainty of the future like this, because of one's desire for results based on supportive conditions, then this can create anxiety, this can create worry, this can create a lot of suffering and stress. So I remember I asked Jnanadeepa Bhante shortly before he passed away. He is an expert in the suttas, and said to him, I've found there's all these suttas that list the means of escape for escaping from various negative mental qualities. Kind of, there's or not all these, but there's a couple. And, if one is angry, there's metta. If one feels lust, there's asubha. If one is tired, there's the perception of light. And there's even suttas, different ways that one can overcome that. If one has doubts, there's, of course, one investigates the Dhamma. But as far as kind of, there's this one defilement called dudacha kukucha. It's kind of worry, basically worry and restlessness and remorse all seem to come under this category of mental defilement, and said, I haven't seen many suttas which specifically give a counter for that. And he said the counter is mindfulness of breathing. This is the one that the Buddha gives to stop thinking, to learn to cut off discursive thought. And so because these various things, these things that one desires are plans for the future, and the instability of the supporting conditions are things that one can rationally know, then when one thinks about these things beyond a certain level, it produces worry. It just tends to produce concern, because there's only so much planning one can do. And then after that, one's ability to manage it becomes unstable, becomes something one can't rely on. So it's at this point that that the Kruvajas recommend basically that a certain amount of planning one can do, then one basically has to stop thinking about it. One can only think about the future to a certain extent that it's useful, and then there's no need to think about it. And of course these kind of worries can come up in one's mind. Well, if I don't think about this, if I don't plan this, then something wrong can happen. But what can tend to happen instead is actually that worry just drops away. One can forget about it almost as if it didn't even happen. And sometimes the conditions that one were worried about work out in one's favor. Sometimes they may not. But in any event, a lot of the kind of proliferation that happens around these things about the future just creates kind of extra worries in one's mind that hinder one's ability to be at ease in the present and to do things that are beneficial in the present. So this is a bit like planning for a parade, kind of one's practice in terms of meditation, and moving forward in one's practice, planning for ways to practice is a bit like planning for a parade. And that it's not necessarily a bad thing to have these these kind of larger thoughts, larger plans about how one wants to practice, how one wants to live one's life in the Dhamma. And it can be good. One wants to practice in solitude. There's certain skills one has to develop that are supportive for that. One may want to learn about what countries are good for that. One may want to seek advice of various monks who've done that in the past, and then maybe try to develop skills that are supportive for that. So there's a certain amount of thinking that one can do for that, but there's a lot of uncertainties around it. So after thinking about what one can do, how one can plan, if there's nothing one can do, if there's nothing one can plan about, then this skill in learning to cut off discursive thought is very important. One that the Buddha highly recommends, one that he praises a lot, especially in his teachings on sati sampajana, which is basically learning to go throughout the day just being in the present moment, doing whatever it is one's doing, one is just doing that. Basically keeping one's thoughts, one's proliferation about the future to a minimum. Because there's only so much planning one can do for the parade. If one plans it, one sets it up as best one can, then there's nothing to do but hope that the weather is good. Hope that the weather works out in one's favor. And this is also where one's practice requires this measure of faith. Because while the weather is something random, there is this other force in Buddhist thought, this force of kamma, which is that basically if one has these sincere intentions, if one practices well, if one does a lot of good deeds, then sometimes in ways that are quite unexpected, things can come together to support one's practice. Things can ripen in such ways that spontaneously and unexpectedly, these things one were hoping for happen. So these two things together combine this kind of quality of being able to cut discursive thought, and also this quality of having this kind of faith that things can spontaneously arise. They can spontaneously work out when one does good. When one practices in accordance with the Dhamma, conditions can spontaneously arise at the right time that help to support one in one's practice. And there's kind of actually many inspiring stories about, there's maybe many, but one tends to hear inspiring stories in this vein. From monks who set out to do kind of difficult things or uncertain things, especially in the West. You know, when one hears about how monasteries were started, one hears about monks kind of going out to do some uncertain things regarding pindapata or charika or whatever it might be. Then there's ways that these things that seem like they are very unlikely suddenly come together. So when one can cultivate these two qualities together, it can help to allay one's worries about the future. It can help to allay one's worries about one's plans for practice. Because on the one hand, there's nothing one can do about the future if it doesn't work out. But on the other hand, there are ways in which if one does good, if one has good intentions, then even things that are very difficult, even things that seem impossible, can suddenly and unexpectedly come together. So cultivating these qualities, this quality of cutting off discursive thought, this quality of faith, can help to allay worry about the weather, about whether or not it rains on one's parade. And so one can live more at ease in the present moment and move forward in one's practice on the path to Nibbana. Okay, so hope that everybody has a great day wherever it might be, and wishing everybody all the blessings of Dhamma practice.